Mr. Do, I'll come back to you, Mr. Okechukwu. Mr. Do, these the irregularities that were obvious in the course of the March 28 elections, the card reader failing at some point in some states, the issues of logistics that INEC had to go through, that's a perennial matter that is like a consistent decimal. Now, do you think that these issues might come up again as we move ahead? Because INEC still has a task. They've not finished their entire assignment. Next week.
Yeah, absolutely not. Maybe challenges. I wouldn't say irregularities, because I think we should be accurate.
Those irregularity is based on allegations of irregularity amongst in the results in the electioneering process. Challenges INEC. There are two questions in one there. Okay. Challenges INEC has had to face over time, logistics and all of that.
Okay, so talking about irregularities, like the panelists have said, we wait to see what plays out in court. Based on the petitions that have been filed with the commission has thoroughly investigated those petitions, and none of them is substantial enough to invalidate the elections that have been conducted, because you need to look at again we need to understand what is being alleged in the context of the scale of operations. So so far for the commission there has been nothing substantial proven in terms of my brother here talked about certain numbers of people being accredited. I doubt that he really looked at the figures, because there's no place where he's finding 90-something% of people of the register. You are talking of the past. So look at the figures. Well, in terms of challenges, yeah, we experienced those challenges on March 28th, and the first thing the commission did, actually, immediately the elections were over, is to begin to interrogate what accounted for those challenges. And already a lot of decisions have been taken and have been implemented as we speak.
Which will affect next week's
exercise. Which will affect next week's election.
Okay.
Hopefully, when we roll out next week, you will not see those same challenges playing out again. The issue of the card readers, there are challenges with the card reader in some areas, but in the substantial number of polling units, the card readers worked well. In the areas where it didn't work well, we've been able to get the idea of what must have accounted, and that's why the commission has actually withdrawn the supplementary guideline that was issued on March 28th. Now, you know, there was this supplementary guideline issued on the election day to say if you can't go ahead with card reader back to manual, that is not going to happen on April 11th. It is card reader all the way.
Mr. Do, what you're saying to us now, that in every polling station in Nigeria next week, Saturday, there will be functional card readers. 100%.
You see, again, human operations are not, again, putting percentages down. We have guidelines that have been drawn up since it was also supposed to apply for March 28, namely that when a card reader malfunctions, it will be replaced within the time of accreditation.
Okay.
And we have enough quantity to be able to replace any malfunctioning card reader. And we don't expect that so many card readers will malfunction, so we are sure we can replace. But in the event, and this is also signed up to by all the political parties, that in the event, in the very unlikely event, that you are not able to replace the card reader before the accreditation time lapses, then of course those places will have to come back the next day. Now the expectation is that if that happens, it is unlikely, but if it happens, it will be in very isolated number of polling units, and so it could be handled. But because of the scale of the challenge on election day, that supplementary guideline was issued, but now it's been withdrawn.
Okay. To
show that the problems that we saw on March 28th have been addressed, and we hope that they won't repeat
Okay, did INEC have to order more card readers or what?
No, the same card
The ones which malfunctioned will now function.
You see, you need to know why they malfunction.
I heard something about some screen or some paper that was removed.
But there were some others that were reportedly not having the film, as in the screen protector has been removed and all of that, but they still malfunction.
Yes,
so
see, again,
have those machines been withdrawn?
They've been taken care of.
No, it is not a product failure problem. It's not a product failure. We've also discovered that among the networks that we used for the card reader, one of them actually required the others. If you immediately put the SIM card in the card reader, it works, it activates and works with the card reader. One of the networks actually required that before you put the SIM card in there, you activate it first with the phone.
Activate the SIM?
The SIM card with the phone before you insert it in the card reader. Otherwise, it will not be able to work with the card reader.
Okay.
Is this a new discovery?
No, we discovered that on the day. They had actually, that was the understanding, but apparently that didn't catch on with our administrators there. So in most places you have the SIM card.
Inadequate training?
No, it's not. You see, again, it is not. It is more of a communication between the network provider and the commission.
Okay.
If you understand what I mean, because actually on that day we had to be calling them when it was discovered that a particular network seemed to be. It was card readers we used with a particular network that we seem to be having those challenges.
Okay.
And that was explained. That look, you needed to do, and you will discover that. In the course of time, these card readers that they said were malfunctioning started to function. It was when we started getting the word across to them that remove that SIM card, activate it with the phone
before you put
it. But when you do that, you have to reconfigure. So again, there's okay. So those things have been identified and we're
been taken care of. But you see that issue of logistics now going to the next week's election.
Yeah.
Issues about this card reader now, I mean the SIM card, would they be activated before they are inserted into the card readers?
That's been dealt with.
No, that's been dealt with now. What about the issues of logistics? I mean, INEC officials not arriving on time, or some arriving and leaving and not coming back? Would that
some
materials being missing? For instance, in Cross River State, materials were stored, instead of being stored in Central Bank, they were allegedly stored in the office of the resident electoral commissioner. How would all of that work out?
Again, you see, that is a misunderstanding of the process. On Wednesday, preceding election day, the resident electoral commissioner, with party agents, not himself alone or herself alone, with party agents and with observers, go to the central bank and take out the sensitive materials in the central bank's vault and bring it to the office. That's where the distribution will begin. So they will be in the office. By Thursday, those materials will be deployed to the local government with party agents accompanying it. So from the time it comes out of the central bank, it's no longer, there's no time INEC alone will be with the materials. Party agents will be there, observers will be there. They go to local government. By Friday, it is also deployed to the ward level. Then from the ward level, that's the registration area centers, from the ward level, early morning on Saturday, it goes to the polling unit. That is the design. So people saying that it was stored in the Rex office actually didn't have an understanding. It won't come from the central bank's office directly to the polling unit. It doesn't happen like that.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Wayo. Mr. Wayo, we stuck with Mr. Edowo for a while because for him to highlight all these issues. Now, but you look at it holistically. How would it work out in the next election? From the things he has outlined, from the issues you have noticed?
Yeah, if you look at the case of card reader, which he has talked about the SIM card being responsible for that. You know, I think even though, you know, he was being diplomatic about it, I think INEC needs to admit that there is something wrong. that area on their part. Because first and foremost, I noticed that their staffs were inadequately trained. Because a number of the ladies or the young men in the different polling units were struggling with that card readers. And if you are talking about the issue of SIM card, I think that ought to have been resolved long enough before that election day, because that is something INEC and the different operating network ought to have resolved, particularly when you say you went out for trial in some states. That ought to have been resolved, because what happened that day in most places showed the fact that most of the handlers did not have adequate training on the use of that card reader machines. So it wasn't just a case of system failure. It was a case of the handlers not being adequately trained. And I think INEC should take that into cognizance, that very aspect, and let's not have a repeat of what happened again, particularly as he is saying that there will be no other alternative to the use of the card reader. Because if people get to the polling booths and they get stranded because the card reader is not working and there is no alternative to it, you might have confusions here and there. Because the reports I have, there were some polling units where the card reader did not work, there was no result sheet, there was no alternative to using the manual. And I understand that the voters in such places burned down everything that INEC brought to those places. And I'm sure INEC should have those reports by now.
Okay.
So it is important to take precautionary measures to avoid a situation like that.
Well, he has said so, but let's Mr. Edo, would you please react to what he just said?